Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Lunch and Learn, presented by Coda Bears. My name is Bill Golis. I'll be leading today's presentation on sales forecasting in Epicor. What is a sales forecast? Well, it's a prediction of demand by part and customer if you so choose. Forecasts can be general, just hey, I think we're going to sell 1,000 of these in this period, or I think we're going to sell 1,000 of these to customer X. You can have both customer demand and just general demand within the forecasts. Why do we do forecasting? What's the objective? Well, we're going to create some predictions for specific parts of what demand may be. Typically, this is going to be based on historical data, seasonality and such, and also on feedback from your customers potentially as well. This allows you to plan your and manufacturing activities and purchasing, deliveries, etc., to smooth the demand, if you will, over time. This way, you can balance the risks of failing to meet demand when you have a longer lead time versus excessive inventory. So obviously, if you forecast more than you sell, you're going to end up with inventory. If you forecast less than what you need, there's a potential that you're going to fail to meet demand. This is a business decision, obviously, based on that particular part and your management plan. Forecasting also allows you to plan for future resource needs. Maybe you need to staff up, or you need to outsourcing options for subcontract work, or perhaps you're even going to consider capital investment if you need new equipment for a particular parts that are forecast with a higher demand than you can currently produce with your current equipment. So some highlights on forecasting. We're going to try to predict when specific part quantities are going to be shipped. Forecasts can be by customer or general, as I mentioned. Forecasts can be imported and exported into Epicor as CSV files. So, for instance, if you're going to update your forecast on an annual basis or on a quarterly basis, you can export last year's forecast or last quarter's as a CSV, and then you can edit that in Excel and then, re-import. And when you do the import and the exports, it's for all parts that have a forecast. I'll talk a little bit more about mass loading forecast. If you want to be part specific, you can do a paste update into the list view, and I will show you that. A forecast can be converted into a master production schedule. So you can take your forecast and make an MPS that's gonna basically, it's gonna override it. When you have a master production schedule and a forecast, the production schedule is going to override the forecast. So some forecast logic. If a forecast is in use and a sales order exists in that time frame that the forecast is set up for, MRP is going to use the larger quantity of the sales order versus the forecast. So if you have a sales order for 1,000 pieces, but your forecast is only for 500, MRP will say, hey, within that time frame, I'm going to need the larger quantity of 1,000. That's the job that will be suggested to create those parts. Conversely, if you have a larger forecast and you have one or two sales orders that is smaller total quantity within the forecast time frame, MRP will suggest jobs to make more than you have sales orders to meet the forecast demand. When sales orders are accepted and firm, it's going to calculate a quantity consumed against the forecast. So if you have a customer specific forecast, and I'll show an example of this, say for Dalton and manufacturing for a part, the forecast is for 1,000 pieces over this month, and then you get a sales order for 500 this month. It's going to consume those 500, and MRP will update that 500 are consumed. We only need 500 more because that's the balance of that forecast, and that logic will be used to create job suggestions. And so the sales orders, MRP first it consumes the quantity against customer specific forecast demand and then general demand. So if you've used up all your forecast demand for a specific customer, and that customer orders more, and there's a general forecast that's non-customer specific, it will consume from the general forecast after it fulfills the customer specific. Every time you run MRP, the consumed quantity is updated. If the forecast date plus the days after is less than the scheduled start date, so that puts it outside the window of your forecast, then the forecast will be ignored by MRP because it's outside the window of the time frame. And conversely, if an open and firm sales order has a date that is in the forecast window, the order will be counted against that forecast. So the parameters on a forecast are you identify days before and days after. That is can be set at the company and site level, but also on individual forecasts if you want to have it different by part. Say you want to do some parts with a 30-day window, some with a 3-month window, etc. And you can also set a lead time on the forecast. The job suggestions will take that into account. They have that lead to be able to start the job. And for exporting and importing records, I've got 2 grids here. On the right with the MFG sys where it has the site, that's how the export function from within the forecast works. So it's going to export the site, part, forecast date, forecast quantity, and then quantity consumed on that forecast. You can then take that into Excel and you can update all those values and dates, and you can then import it back into Epicor to update your forecast. And when you do that export, you're going to get all parts. You see on this example here, it shows part 00C1 as well as part 0201223. The bottom grid here is just an example of a copying out from the grid view into Excel, and then you can do a paste update. And again, I'll show that in a demo. And that's when you want to update a forecast for a specific part. So now let's take a look at how this works in 2023 here. Okay, let's look at a forecast here first. So this is a forecast entry. You see here on the detail, you're going to have your days before and days after. So on the forecast date, it's going to look 30 days before, 30 days after for your window. On this particular part, I selected a part number here, which is 00C1, and we have in here multiple forecasts. You see these first 2 rows here are not customer specific, so that's just general demand. So the forecast quantity here for either row 1 on May 1st is 250 parts, and we've consumed 215 already based on sales orders that I created for examples. I'll show you that in a second. Here we're looking at the grid view, and this particular part has these 5 forecasts here. As I mentioned, 3 are for Dalton, here, and 2 are not customer specific. And we can see that we've consumed some part of each line except for this 521 for Dalton. And how those have been consumed is with sales orders. And real quick, I actually loaded this in the classic screen. It's easier to see here on multiple orders. So if we look at this particular order, this one is for Dalton. This is 6/3. It's the need by date that we're looking at. So 100 pieces here. That's after the 6 till you can see that we've consumed 100 because I have a sales order within that time frame that is firm. If we look at this next sales order here, this is for Boeing Company, so it's not for Dalton, and this is in time frame 5/1 for 200 pieces. If we go to the 5/1 here, and you see there's 215. I actually have 2 sales orders that were different companies, one for Boeing at 200. And here, if we look at a customer A, 15 pieces, also on 419, so that it falls into the 5/1 because it's not customer specific. So you see how that one, I went to the non-customer specific, whereas each of the ones for Dalton, this one is for 418 for 75 pieces, the 418, 75 pieces here. That's only updated after you run MRP. Last thing I wanted to chat about here is here's the export process. If I export this forecast, so here from the overflow menu to export, we're going to call this export, and we'll say from today on. So we're going to get everything except for the one from 417. Let's say export. Okay, it's going to come up and say, where do you want that file? And we'll put that on the desktop here as a CSV. Let me bring that out here. We're going to see here that forecast export is going to be for all parts, not just the 00C1. This is for every part that has a forecast. Here's our site, our part number, our forecast date, our quantity of the forecast and our quantity consumed and customer if the customer is present. So we can load this into an Excel and we can update it. Now, conversely, if we want to do just part specific and we're already here, I have gone ahead and done a copy all with labels, and we end up with this file here. I added 2 rows here. So we can see here, these go up through 6.2. These 2 rows I added for 2,000 and 3,000, and one for Dalton and one for a not customer specific. If I just select the data, not the headers, and get all of these, if I copy that, I should be able to right click and do a paste new, and we should get those 2 records. So you can add in, so you can copy out from your list view, you can edit in Excel, and you can update your forecasts part specific pretty simply from the list view for that part in forecast entry. When the forecasts are in and you run MRP, you will get the proper job suggestions and purchase suggestions based on what your forecast is and the other parameters like your days of supply and such. And if you have on your MRP that you want to do job lots are a max of 1,000 pieces and your forecast is for 10,000, you're going to get 10 suggestions, etc. The job won't be created if you don't have an approved revision with a proper method of manufacturing them. So in a nutshell, that is forecasting. Questions?
From Jonathan, I saw that Epicor partners with Forecast Pro and Smart. How are those solutions different?
Well, to be frank, I didn't come prepared for that. Those are, but basically they are more robust tools that are third party and that you can import and export those forecasts into Epicor. I don't have specifics on that. And Jonathan, if you want to dig into that and you want to look at, I guess I would suggest, walk before you run, try the base product, but we certainly can get you more information or a demo or, and work with you if you're interested in using Forecast Pro. And well, thanks for your time, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's Lunch and Learn presented by CodaBears. Have a great afternoon.
Want more CodaBears Lunch and Learn? Check out our channel for more videos or contact us on our website for registration information.